You're listening in on an animated discussion about Batman the Animated Series with two experts in their fields. I'm Joshua Unruh, superhero scholar.
And I'm Caleb Masters, your friendly neighborhood film critic from the cinematropolis.com. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 16, Day of the Samurai. All right, Joshua. So you talked me into it. You said we did Night of the Ninja, so we have to do Day of the Samurai, and this one's a little better. But I learned so much about the difference between samurais and ninjas.
Damning with faint praise. Yeah, we'll talk about that because they do a mediocre job of talking about the differences between samurai and ninja, but it's fun.
Yeah, it is very simplified for a children's show, right?
Well, except when I read this, I had mountains of Wolverine comics that had shockingly done a better job of explaining the difference between ninja and samurai to me. But let's begin, as we do, with the title card.
It's pretty simple. Cool contrast. Otherwise boring.
I like the way that it looks. Like, I like the actual image in the title card. But the volcano shows up so late in the game,
right,
that it doesn't feel, it doesn't feel like as thematically on point. That's definitely like a big, cool set piece. I get why they wanted to spotlight it, but it doesn't seem, I guess, emblematic of the episode as a whole.
So the interesting thing I noticed about the volcano is it doesn't show up for about half the episode, but when it does, it's always there. They're definitely foreshadowing this volcano.
Yes.
Once they get to Japan and that gets rolling. So I think in that sense it's fitting. I just think it's kind of boring. It is a cool visual, and it was great foreshadowing because I was like, all right, well, obviously there's a volcano is going to play into this somehow.
You're looking for it now. You're like, how will this work?
And then Batman's later in the episode talking to the sensei sitting out on the balcony. I'm like, there's that volcano. I wonder when they're going to get there. But I mean, and that's so it's a little on the nose in that sense. But I just I don't know. I didn't really feel like it told me much about the episode.
No, it really doesn't. And the stuff that it does tell you about the episode, I feel like it tells you in some of the most lazy ways, honestly. Like, right, you get the kind of Shaw Brothers font, the Kung Fu movie font, and the very Shaw Brothers by way of an orchestra, God deliver me from this, Oriental music. You get that, so we're doing a
God
thing.
Is smiting you, Joshua.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is what it is.
No, it's tough though. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's the music.
It's not authentic.
No,
like that's the thing. If it were authentic Japanese music or authentic Chinese music, I would say so. But it really is it's Oriental music, the stuff that the American studios slapped on top of either imported kung fu movies or their own cheap martial arts films.
Also known as the music you heard at the local Chinese and Japanese restaurant that was ran by white people.
Right. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that's
yes.
I know what you mean.
Again, it's also much like the font. It's not terrible. It's real on point. But it's like we get this volcano that's kind of not very suggestive of the episode at all. It's just an element that's there. And then you get this stuff that's just like a baseball bat in the face. Like, hey, by the way, we're doing a kung fu movie. Bam.
Okay, so this might be a side tangent. But stay with me. I want to have this conversation. And you know what? I have this thing that I think about when we're looking at kung fu or kung fu inspired things, because I think at the end of the day that while there are authentic kung fu films that come from China and there are films about samurais and ninjas that come from Japan, overwhelmingly the Americanized versions of those things are really kind of bastardizations and very air quotes Oriental,
Yeah.
So I have this weird question anytime you're looking at something that's a love letter to a thing that was actually kind of a bastardization of a culture in the first place. Like, is that okay? Or do you just call it what it is and just and accept it for that?
The interesting thing about this episode is that I feel like it really threads that needle, okay? I mean, obviously they decided to make this, and to a lesser extent Night of the Ninja, because the creators like martial arts films, right? And they'd already given themselves a little bit of continuity that locked them into Japan, rather than, because really, if it was a samurai movie, there'd be sword fights. It would be different. Chanbara is different than your wuxia kung fu movies. Similar but different. This isn't really either one of those things. It's kind of this weird hybrid. But they do a reasonable job for 22 minutes of dropping a bunch of actual Japanese words that are used correctly by and large.
I did notice that.
I mean, it's
very respectful in that sense.
It is this homage to a thing that may or may not actually exist in Chinese or Japanese-made martial arts films, but they did their best to treat it respectfully, I feel.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I certainly don't want to accuse this episode of being offensive at all. It's more of a theoretical question that, like, as a and when I'm covering a lot of films and film criticism, it's like whenever you're critiquing a film that is a love letter to a thing that is actually not correct, like not politically correct or not or an accurate representation of a culture. Like, how do you deal with that? Especially if you're like you and I, we like kung fu movies. So it's
right.
What do we do? Like, what do you do? And I certainly think this episode does a lot better than a lot of kung fu movies I've seen. It's just a question that I think is somewhat relevant to the episode. And I think overall, as you said, they use subtitles. Oh, they actually use Japanese.
And there's actual Japanese spoken in the thing.
And generally used correctly. Yeah, I think overall it does a great job. It's just an interesting conversation that we had when you're looking at these tributes to Kung Fu.
In fact, if there's a place that this episode falls down culturally, it's when they obviously want to do a Kung Fu movie plot in Japan where it would be different there, right? I mean, and again, this is not the Chanbara and wuxia podcast, so I will not go deeply into the many differences, but it is set in Japan, but doing more Chinese things. It's interesting.
I mean, I guess if I was going to come to a conclusion to answer my own question, I'd say it's more of a love letter than anything. It's just a curious question to have, like when thinking about it, like especially consuming. I both consume a lot of film that come from other countries. It's like. Sometimes, so when Americans make things based on that thing, sometimes they successfully do an amazing job at paying homages and respecting the cultures that come from. Other times, they just don't care.
Yeah.
And I think this one cares a lot more than not.
This one, I think, is carrying its level best. I mean, here's some other problematic cards to lay on the table. I mean, this is not ethnically charged, but our gender...
Oh God!
Politics in this episode is not fantastic.
What do you mean? The girl who gets Kari, who gets fridged, basically?
Well, we don't kill her, thank God, but she definitely gets damseled.
Yes.
Like, she gets damseled real hard when she is the sensei's best student currently. Now, I don't expect her to be operating on the same level as Bruce and Kyodai Ken. But if she is his top student right now, she should probably be a little more effective.
I would say so, yes.
Now, I hate the damseling very, very much, but I will give props. The rooftop scene, she is fantastic in that scene. It sort of makes me retroactively wish that she'd had a better showing, because I mean, in my notes, it's like the damseling is some expletive deleted,
right?
And then I had no sons. Because the reason that the secret of the magic kung fu...
The secret of the fang or whatever.
Yeah, the reason it's going to die is because Sensei has no sons. And I'm like, you've got a prize student right here who's still living here.
She's basically like your daughter.
Yeah, just...
It's not how it works in Japan, though, Joshua.
I don't even want to deal with it.
Yeah.
So... some mixed bag as far as,
Yeah, the way it's represented.
Need to be done this way... both for how they treat the cultures that they're drawing from and again, gender politics is real damn complicated on Batman the Animated Series.
It's complicated on Batman the Animated Series, and I want to avoid going any further with this, but I just want to lay out there, on NPR today, they were just talking about misogyny and the patriarchy in Japan proper. So I'm just saying, like, it's a complicated thing.
Yes, and are we going to do it accurately or do we want to do it's our story, we can tell what we want? As an author, these are questions I have to ask myself all the time.
Right.
But I really feel like that's the end of the bad stuff.
No, I think so.
Like, everything else in this is really well put together. I really like it.
I think it has a lot of great set pieces. I still am not in love with Kyodai Ken, but he is a vehicle for which we get cool set pieces, so I'm on board with it.
I don't think... Listen, Batman has so many great villains that when we have one who is just there to let us do this very specific thing, it's like, okay... I mean, I can let you go. They didn't have a existing one to go to, you know, so it's fine. I did like very much shades of secret identity shenanigans again showing up in this as
with the sensei.
Sensei clearly knows what's up.
Right. Yeah. He's like, so I like when he's like, oh no, I didn't beat Kyodai Ken. Batman did. He's like, well, you guys know each other, right? And he's like, oh, we've met.
Yes, that is how it was reported. But you know one another, right? Yeah. Well, and also even Bruce talking about Batman to the other student, to Akari, I just loved the phrase, the Batman does what he will. And I'm like, that's fantastic.
Okay, also, and I know we're kind of jumping around, but can I just point out the use of telephones in this episode is kind of hilarious. So Alfred just walks down, hey, Sensei, your Sensei is on the phone, and he just picks up in his bat costume in the bat cave and talks to him. And then later, the Sensei hangs up the phone, and Batman's like, who was that? Oh, it was Kyodai Ken. I was like, you were just talking to the guy who kidnapped
the kidnapper.
Akari. Yeah. Like, just very nonchalant. It's just really funny use of the phone.
Yeah. That's a thing that kind of dates it. That's a place where the timelessness of the show does not quite work because of what has happened to phones since 1992. Like, I mean, no one's running around with Tommy guns and nobody drives these big sedans and stuff, but there's something about that, how it just kind of works.
Well, it's because
in my head,
it's because today we'd have like emails or text messages.
We'd have a million other things.
Right. Or even weird letters with the shifty cutout magazine letters pasted.
Yeah, but this was just like, I'm just going to make a phone call. And then later, the timing of the plot kind of goes a little wonky too, because we have this phone call that we trace, but then we have a scene of Bruce practicing before he goes to check that location out as Batman. I don't know. I feel like it's not terrible. I bet I only noticed it now because I'm super close watching these, but I was like, that seems like a thing you'd go check out like right now.
Right. Yeah, no, there's a lot of little things like that. I don't want to, and I know we're being critical of this episode, but the again, with these kind of more tributes to Kung Fu, plotting is not my biggest concern. My biggest concern is set pieces. And you know what? We got a couple of really cool set pieces.
We really do. And we do get a good sort of internal conflict from, it's not quite baked as much as I would like it to be, but the tail end of this episode really does a good job with the internal conflict of Bruce Wayne, where he's like, I want to be this paragon. I want to be a samurai, but I act like a ninja, And yeah, that's interesting. That's a pretty meaty question that I sort of wish somehow they had brought out earlier in the episode.
It's tough because
Kyodai Ken should have said more pointedly, because he just says, you act like I do, but he should have just been like really digging at
You're
it,
ninja. You're just like me. Kind of pulling like a Joker, like there's no difference between
you and me. There's no difference
between
us. Yeah, that would have been interesting.
Yeah, I think so. So the first big set piece, of course, being on the rooftop fight. Awesome, good hand-on-hand combat. But man,
the animation in this episode is so much better than the animation in Night of the Ninja.
I agree.
Like Night of the Ninja is okay. It's average for BTAS. They should have gotten the better squad for the Kung Fu episode.
Agreed.
And I think they did it for this one. This one was really dynamic.
Okay. Great moment when they're on the volcano fighting. And then Kyodai Ken takes off his shirt.
Yeah.
And he's got the giant dragon tattoo on his back. I was like, all right, here we go. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was a great fight scene. And then
mask off, shirt off, real fight starts now.
Yes.
Yeah, it was very cool. We also get some detective work. I really like, this is a thing for me because so often in other portrayals of Batman, we don't get the detective aspect. And that is really a big deal for my conception of Batman anyway. And I'm starting to wonder if it was BTAS that did it to me, honestly.
I mean, BTAS does a lot of detecting.
But in this case, I really like that he figured out where the death touch was from inspecting the dummy. It's so clever. It makes so much sense. And it's not like weird over the top. It's not some kind of like out of nowhere Deus Ex Machina.
It's just a guy who was paying very close attention to a small detail everyone else overlooked.
Exactly.
And the same way he kind of identified the broken map piece and stuff. Everyone else was like, oh my gosh, this is torn to shreds. And you see him look at it for a second. He's like, wait a second. There's something missing here.
Yeah. I really liked the fact that as soon as Kyodai Ken gets his hand on the scroll, that it just crumbles. Like that makes sense. It's 500 years old.
Right.
Like it's just going to go to dust.
Yes.
If you were following around a protagonist who was after that thing, that would have been a really great ironic ending, right? Like if
Kyodai Ken was your protagonist,
hero, and got to that point and it just crumbled in your hand, it would be like, that's
your entire life's journey just for nothing.
Yeah, like just that moment conjured this whole other story that I could have been following along. It was really interesting.
And I know it's the MacGuffin, but can I just say the one-hit punch thing was so silly. I can't get over it. Like, he's like, if I just tap you with my finger, it'll kill you.
Well, it's got the dim mak, as it is in kung fu movies, has a long and storied history of basically working exactly like that. So I think that's kind of where we get
it's
that
totally
homage.
Okay. No, I'm not. That's not a criticism. That's just it's like this is some fun shenanigans.
So I had an art thing that I want to bring out because I was not the one who noticed it. My son was watching the show with me, and he spot on got this. I had to stop everything and write it down in my notes. We are introduced in the episode to a location at night. It is not Gotham City, and therefore the night skies actually look like night skies.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
The sky over Japan at night actually looks like nighttime.
Like
it is
normal.
not those god-awful, portentous red skies that you get in every shot of Gotham.
Yes.
And I mean, it's the first shot. Like, it's the establishing shot is night in Japan, and he's sitting right next to me, and he just is like...
Blue and black skies.
He's like, those skies aren't red like Gotham's. And I was like, high five, brother, because it's
very subtle.
But it also really tells you you're somewhere else. You know, you're out of Gotham, and that's pretty cool.
Powerful visual storytelling.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, from a show that does that kind of stuff all the time, and now it makes me wonder how many other relatively subtle things did I miss?
Well, that's the great thing about close watching these episodes and really breaking it down is you catch as many of these things.
Yeah.
Before. I mean, I didn't notice a lot of the things we've talked about on the show, and it's really clever. So, fun fact, I want to throw out there. So, Kyodai Ken, Bruce Timm wanted to kill him off, like definitely kill him, like make it very evident that they killed him off. However, the censors were like, "Nah, bro, that's a little too dark." So they gave him an ambiguous death and like left it, which also left it kind of open-ended for him to show up. And then he never does. He never comes back.
Yeah. I do feel like it's a lot less open-ended than Night of the Ninja. Night of the Ninja,
he's definitely
a
alive.
long dive, and I'm like, that guy is alive.
He landed in water. He's not dead.
He's
no
fine.
way.
But yeah, what are you going to do? Big pile of lava. That cat is dead.
No, yeah, for sure. But there's the smoke that, you know, it has the rule.
It's superhero rules. No body. You can always come back.
It can always come back.
Absolutely.
And then
sometimes when there is a body.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes. So I know, just a nice little bit of trivia there for you. That Kyodai Ken was apparently never Bruce Timm's favorite character to write for.
Well, I can see it. I mean, you nailed it. He's one note. He's there specifically to tell exactly these two stories. I'm not saying there's not a third or a fourth story you could do with him, but we're starting to hit the two notes that he has. One, ninja, and Batman is kind of a ninja. And two, knew Bruce Wayne when he was a kid. Like,
yes,
that's it.
Those are the two things. They have the past, and then they have the goal.
The kind of, mirroring one another, sort of. Yeah.
Well, which again is that Kyodai Ken always chooses vengeance, and you know what?
It's true.
This actually picks up on something we talked about in Night of the Ninja. There was a key difference with going back to our the broken, cracked mirror concept. They're very different, but the most notable one is that Kyodai Ken chooses vengeance and revenge and theft and power over compassion, which this episode does highlight because Batman tries to save him and he's like, nope, I'd rather die in this volcano than take your hand. Great death.
That was okay. You have this in layers, right? Because he wants to know the super powerful martial arts technique, but Kyodai Ken is satisfied with the death touch. Like, he's like, that's good enough. I can work with that. He basically did this whole kidnapping thing to learn how to kill people with just a touch. There's no way to be a good guy with that kind of ability, right?
Yeah, no, you're not a good guy when you're one hit killing people.
Boop, drop dead. But then on top of that, that in the end, Batman is like, I will save you if you will let me. And he just boop. This is so much better than these times when you have Batman say something like, I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you. It's been done a few times, and I never quite buy it. I like this a lot better where he does the Batman thing, but the villain actually has sort of the courage of their convictions, where he's like, nope, if I can't beat you, even with my super secret technique, I don't want to live anymore. Pretty good.
Got pride, man.
Yeah.
It's got the pride. I think overall, a lot of, again, cool action, vehicle for action sequences. And you know what, Joshua, this episode, it ends on a sweet little note with a sunrise, Bruce Wayne, Batman out in the sun. and then his sensei calls him, no, you are a samurai, and then lets a dove fly into the sun, and in which case I was like, a dove, you say? A dove.
Now, I have a little bit of cultural language fun for you.
Oh.
So, the word samurai actually means a servant. And I thought that was really great because he specifically call out the fact that Batman's methods are ninja. Like, his methods are ninja. But Sensei says, your soul is samurai, right? Your soul is that of service, which is always that he saves people to his own detriment. He saves kids, he saves orphans, he saves villains. He tries to save the bad guys. Batman is in service. And yeah, it's like, I get that you needed your mentor to tell you that, but really you should have seen that right from the jump. You're the good guy in this.
Yeah, a little too self-conscious, Batman, when you're thinking, oh my gosh, I think I might be an ninja. No, yeah, because you're right. Because at the end of the day, there's a very clear distinction between him and his villains, and specifically with Kyodai Ken, who he has a history with. It's very clear because he is trying to help him.
Yes, yeah.
Versus Kyodai Ken, who's trying to kill him.
Methods are not really the key, right? Like your actions are the key. The thing that you do, not how you do it.
The thing that you do and the spirit in which you do it.
Yep. Yeah.
Not the methodology.
Not the methodology. I mean, the dove was admittedly a little bit of cheese.
I loved
it.
No, it's based on kung fu films. You have to have a dove.
Yeah.
It's mandatory.
But I really again, they don't bring that out. They don't talk about what samurai means. That was the thing that I brought with me. But in that moment, I was like, yeah, I really like this ending. I really like this a lot.
Again, it's a little more redemptive, which I appreciated. Not that Batman needed redemption.
No, but it's the idea. Himself. I mean, in the absence of someone to damn him, Bruce Wayne will judge himself overly harshly. And here you have one of the tiny handful of people that could say to him, no, you're the good guy here. And he'll actually hear it.
Right.
That's powerful stuff.
Is there anything else you want to add about Day of the Samurai today before we wrap up with our alternate media recommendations?
No, I like it. I think it's a watcher.
I stopped watcher. I don't love it, but it is fun, and I like it a lot more than Night of the Ninja. That said, if you're going to watch one of these, you have to watch both of them. So basically like a two-part episode. Two different stories.
This.
But
I
you got to watch
this.
both. You got to watch both. So I would a soft recommendation. I would not make it one of your must-watches, but if you're going to revisit the series and you're looking overall, you're like, you know what? Make the extra 40 minutes to watch these two episodes.
Yes, definitely.
So Joshua, on the note of doves, as we always do, we're going to make some alternate media recommendations, and mine is none other than John Woo. Any movie he's made, actually. Any John Woo movie. But to name a couple: Face Off, Hard Boiled, not Mission Impossible 2. Sorry, I won't recommend that one. I just watched it recently and it doesn't hold up. But there's a lot of great John Woo movies. He's got a new one on Netflix recently. Watch them, all of them, because there's always doves.
He's fantastic. John Woo is fantastic. There's that old saying that's the often imitated, never duplicated. And they could have invented that for John Woo. Because once you watch some John Woo movies, you're going to see bits of him everywhere. But most people just can't pull it all off. Like, he just has a style.
He has a very distinct style that's hard to replicate. So homaging John Woo is the best you get, really.
Yeah. And it's not because the people that love him aren't trying really hard. It's because that guy is just operating on a certain level. He's kind of all by himself at that level.
Agreed. He is very good doing a certain thing, and he does it so well and so uniquely that no one else can do it.
Yep, absolutely. And really, even before he made the move to the United States, he was already influencing, action films.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah,
the Western audiences have been influenced by John Woo for a very long time.
Yeah, I love Hard Boiled. Hard Boiled is my personal favorite, but The Killer's pretty great. So yes, I will second this recommendation.
Excellent, Joshua. What about you? What you got?
I am also going to go towards the Far East for a pick, because if you say samurai to me, it's like a Rorschach test. You say samurai to me, I go, you mean Yojimbo? Because I love Yojimbo.
Yojimbo's great.
It is a great movie. It's so good. It's been remade a couple times in different settings. Film guy, you may or may not know, it is actually a reimagining of a Dashiell Hammett novel.
Oh.
Yojimbo is based on Dashiell Hammett's Red Harvest.
Why does that not surprise me, though?
Yeah.
Kurosawa drew a lot of... It's really interesting how this... And the influence between Japanese culture and American culture is very interesting because Kurosawa, one of the most influential filmmakers to come out of Japan, was actually heavily influenced by the Western, by novels and old films. And there's a back and forth. There's a lot of, that's why you notice a lot of Western tropes are incorporated Kurosawa films because one of two things happened. Either he was inspired by Western novels that he adapted to the big screen in his films, or someone in the States saw his film and adapted it to a Western later.
Yes. And sometimes both. Like it's crazy. So the basic story of Yojimbo is that you have a ronin, a masterless samurai, wandering the countryside, and he comes into a small village that is beset by a gang war. And he begins playing both sides against the middle because he's just one guy. He can't save the town on his own, just mowing through all of these people. So he tries to play both sides off the middle. To middling success. We'll put it that. It's worth a watch.
If you haven't seen Yojimbo, it really is a classic. You got to check it out. And by the way, light bulb, I don't know. Samurais, I don't know why I didn't think about it. I'm just also going to throw it there because I love it so much and it's animated. Samurai Jack, I think, one of the most underrated animated
It's got a very animated Yojimbo feel. Like Jack is just traveling the countryside, getting into trouble, has no place to lay his head,
It's very influenced by samurai films, live action. So, but yeah, Yojimbo, that's a great little film.
Well, that about wraps up this animated discussion. Caleb, where can people go to continue the conversation with you?
Well, Joshua, you can always find me on Twitter talking about film, television, video games, and all sorts of other pop culture goodness at C Masters Talk. That's letter C Masters Talk. I'm also the editor-in-chief and film critic at the Cinematropolis, and we publish these in-depth essays on all types of different films, oftentimes including science fiction and superhero films, all the stuff you'd want to read about. And you can find all of these articles at thecinematropolis.com. Joshua, what about you?
I'm also most active on Twitter, where you can find me easily enough at Joshua Unruh. And remember that an animated discussion is a Pulp Diction Productions program and is 100% supported by listeners like you. To find out how you can keep this and our other shows in production, check out patreon.com/pulpdictionproductions.
Joshua, I guarantee you my story about the next episode is better than your story.
No, there's no way. My story's the better story.
Are you sure?
I'm willing to bet.
Well, listeners can find out by tuning into our next episode, Season 2, Episode 18, Almost Got 'Em.
Until next time, we'll see you back here. Same bat time, same bat channel.